All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, it's the end of an era as after 14 years as starting quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons, Matt Ryan was traded to the Indianapolis Colts. Now, in exchange for Ryan, the Falcons received a third round pick from the Colts. Ryan leaves the Falcons as a franchise's all time leader in every major statistical category for a quarterback, and it's not even close. Ryan was the NFL's MVP in 2016 when he helped the Falcons reach the Super Bowl for just the second time in franchise history. Ryan also helped the Falcons reach the playoffs six times during his tenure in Atlanta. Now, you look at this trade, and the Falcons were in a weird spot. And honestly, this started from last year. They got a new head coach in Arthur Smith. And typically, when you bring in a new head coach, generally that first year, he wants to go draft a quarterback. And that's something that the Falcons didn't do last year. We saw Atlanta use their first round pick on tight end Kyle Pitts. And then they followed that up this off season with the failed courtship of Deshaun Watson, which left Ryan and the Falcons in a bind. And, Ryan was the franchise's quarterback, but no QB wants to hang around when, he's looking at his current team trying to go out there and pick his successor. And of course, that put the Falcons in a very difficult spot. And of course, subsequently, this trade was made. And honestly, I think the legs on this trade got to begin moving as soon as Deshaun Watson agreed to go to the Cleveland Browns. Now, Ryan is going to be 37 years of age in May, but short term, he does give the Colts some stability at the quarterback position, which is what they didn't have last season. And I've talked about that, and I talked about the issues with Carson Wentz. And again, go back and look. In the 9 games that the Colts won last season, it was Jonathan Taylor's legs that got them there because every time that Taylor ran for more than 100 yards, the Colts won. Every time that Taylor was held under the century mark, they lost. Now, it's going to be very interesting because, Ryan is, he's in the past during his time with the Falcons, the Falcons have put solid players around him, whether at the wide receiver position, with the likes of Roddy White, Julio Jones, and then, of course, at the running back position as well, with the likes of Devontae Freeman and Michael Turner, just to name a few. But, when you put the pieces around him, Matt Ryan can give you a chance. And, we've seen Frank Reich, the Colts head coach, work with veteran quarterbacks in the past. A couple of years ago, we saw Indianapolis make the playoffs with Philip Rivers under center. And of course, that was Rivers' swan song in the NFL. Very interesting spot here for the Colts because you think about the stability that they had at the quarterback position for so many years with Peyton Manning, and it looked like they were once again going to have that with Andrew Luck until the injuries began to take their effect on his body. But, if Ryan is a starter, for the Colts come week one, and more than likely he will be barring injury. This is going to be the seventh consecutive different starting quarterback that the Colts have had in as many years on opening day. So it's going to be very interesting for Indy from that standpoint. On the flip side, for Arthur Blank, I don't know him or Matt Ryan personally, but nonetheless, I think this was a very tough decision for him because he understands what Matt Ryan has meant to this Falcons organization for nearly a decade and a half. And, when you move on from one quarterback who's been, a cornerstone, a hallmark, if you will, for that franchise, it's never an easy decision, especially for a guy like Matt Ryan, who's been embedded in that Atlanta community for so many years as well. It didn't take the Falcons that long to find Matt Ryan's replacement, and I think it's a short-term replacement as they signed veteran quarterback Marcus Mariota. So let's see how he fits into the equation down in the ATL, and now he has to replace the best quarterback in the history of that franchise. But getting back to Ryan, make no mistake about it, I don't think that any other player will ever wear the number two for that franchise. You think of what Matt Ryan has done, it's not even close. I mean, he passed for nearly 60,000 yards in a Falcon uniform. That's almost three times more than the second closest in Steve Bartowski. So you look at it, Matty Ice really, was a staple for this Falcons franchise for many, many years. You ask yourself, how will things work out for Ryan in Indianapolis? You have a head coach in Frank Reich who was a quarterback in the NFL, and he also knows a thing or two about working with quarterbacks. And I think Matt Ryan is going to bring some professionalism to the Colts offense, to the Colts organization, something that, as you're hearing the reports, they really didn't have, and they really weren't a fan of the leadership or lack thereof that they got from Carson Wentz last year. So, with that said, that is definitely going to be a step up for the Colts. I think this is a short-term move. Obviously, you're not going to pencil in Matt Ryan for the next decade as a starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. But if the Colts can get 2 or 3 years out of him, I'm sure they would be more than happy. You look at Marcus Mariota in Atlanta. It's going to be interesting to see what the Falcons do here. But if you're Mariota, you get an opportunity to showcase what you can do. It didn't work out for you with Tennessee. You spent some time as the backup to Derek Carr with the Raiders, and now you want to get your opportunity once again to see what happens. I think somebody who definitely loses out on this is going to be current Cleveland Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield. He's had to sit back and see the Browns trade for Deshaun Watson. So obviously his time there is done. He wanted to go to the Colts, but obviously, the Colts did not want Baker Mayfield. So it's going to be interesting to see who he suits up for next season. And I think somebody is going to make a trade with the Cleveland Browns to acquire Baker Mayfield. But you know what? He's probably going to get his feelings hurt right now because he wanted to go to Indy, but obviously Indy didn't want to go with him. That's the nature of the business. We have to see where number six lands. But in regards to Matt Ryan, he does have an opportunity here. The AFC South is a winnable division for the Indianapolis Colts. They really only have to worry about the Tennessee Titans in that division right now. You look at the Houston Texans, they're in the midst of a rebuild. I guess you want to say the same thing for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've been a bad franchise for very long, but still, with that said, more than likely, if you are the Colts, you're going to have to win this division in order to make the playoffs. Because when you think about the depth that the AFC North has, the depth that the AFC West has, as well as the AFC East, it's going to make it very difficult for you to be a wild card team, and it's going to be little wiggle room as well. Dealing with those juggernauts that are in the AFC. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think this is definitely a step up for the Colts at quarterback from what they had last season with Carson Wentz. Again, Indy, their bread and butter is running the football, and they play off of that. So as long as they can get Jonathan Taylor going, they're going to have a quarterback that's not going to fumble it away, so to speak, or give the ball away. Um, in the sense that Carson Wentz did last year. You think about Matt Ryan, of course, like I said, he's the best quarterback that the Falcons had in their franchise history. But unfortunately for Matty Ice's story, you can't tell the full story without talking about what happened in Super Bowl number 51 as the Falcons, fluttered that game away. Overall, Matt Ryan is 4-6 in the postseason as a starting quarterback. But nonetheless, after the way that last season ended for the Indianapolis Colts, I think first and foremost, they want to have a quarterback that they know who first and foremost can get them to the playoffs, and then they'll see what happens from there. But nonetheless, this was a move that had to be made to get Matt Ryan out of Atlanta. He gives the Colts a shot at the postseason in 2022. And let's see what happens for Matt Ryan, the Indianapolis Colts, Marcus Mariota, and the Atlanta Falcons going forward. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.